do it afraid. People talk about strength and courage, and those things are not lack of fear. Those things are doing it despite the fear. That's what that is to me, because I think that is huge. It's just do it despite the fear. Do it despite that someone's going to criticize you or point the finger and say, oh, you did. As long, going back to the intrinsic, as long as you stick to your values, stick to your story, it's okay. Say to yourself at the end of the day, was I kind? Did I do my best? Yes? Yes? Okay.
What if you've been waiting for someone to give you permission to change your life, and that person is you the whole time? My guest today is a published author, mental health advocate, and the co-host of the Pieces to Wellness podcast. Tim Parent is an inspirational survivor, self-described perspective junkie, and by his own saying, a bit of a silly goose. But what I love about Tim is living proof of his own message. So, Tim, welcome.
Thank you so much. What a tremendous intro. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And for people who don't know you right now, let's go into your heart for a bit. So what's taking up the most space in your heart or work right now?
I think it's been a continuous theme of sort of the same thing as self-development, self-discovery, just a continuous learning process, being better than I was yesterday. So always trying to flip the script and reframe, take something away from an experience that I'm in, and use it in a helpful way if I can.
And you do that also in your life and also in your podcast of how you talk with many different people and many different perspectives on learning. I think that's very evident. Your curiosity and your willingness to stay open and truly hear other people and hear whether it's in mental health or even different parts of neurodivergence or different parts across the board of having the conversation that a lot of us are necessarily afraid to hear, afraid to have that conversation. So I'd love to dive into a bit of the why and all of that. But first, what's something, getting to know Tim just a little bit, what's something in your own journey that people wouldn't know? Like what's something that is surprising that most people won't know about you?
I would say I would say that the thing that comes forefront is the level of anxiety that I deal with on a daily basis. It's just like my baseline is anxiety. My baseline is anxious. So any given day when I'm trying something new or I'm, leaving the house, I go through the mental checklist of, did I do this? Did I lock the door? Did I, so I think that weight of anxiety is probably what I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. And I appreciate you telling me that because a lot of times that is the stuff we don't talk about, right? I mean, even myself, how many times you mentioned like checking things, like there's certain things in my life that a lot of people won't know. They really won't know, but they'll realize it once they see it. Like once they do know, then they'll realize why I do certain things, or maybe I in many cases I might, whether it's getting distracted or having anxiety in the sense that like, oh, did I lock the door? Did I do this? And like have to make sure to the point where I say it out loud because I can't necessarily remember, but also I won't stop thinking about it if I don't actually look it up.
Correct.
So
yeah.
I appreciate that because it's real, right? The whole point is being real and having real conversations.
Absolutely. I agree. Maybe it sounds a bit corny, but I don't know how to be any other way besides being real. And I think for me, if I were to follow my values and stay true to myself, that's what that's a piece of it is staying real and authentic to who I am.
Is that a big value of you, like authenticity?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've learned over the years that, you're going to lose things in life. You're going to hear a lot of things, but the most important is to never dismiss yourself, never lose yourself, never lose who you are, because that's at the core. Once you lose that's when everything else around you starts to erode. And it's a fairly fast downward spiral after that for some of us.
Yeah. Ooh, I can relate with that, and I know a lot of people listening in their own way probably can at different points of their life. I mean, they could be at the point where they're just, you know, finding themselves again after that spiral, or maybe they're in that, or maybe they're just in that part that's really hard, and knowing like something listening to something like this could help them get to the next step, know that there's the light at the end of the tunnel, or at least there's support and there's help and there's other people who actually care in the world. There is
Yeah,
good in the world if we look, if we open our eyes, but sometimes it's really hard to do that if depending on where we are.
it is. It is. And I think that's a big piece of it is our perspective and how we see things and how we talk to ourselves. It's the story that we tell ourselves that's going to affect every future move that we make.
Yeah, the story we tell ourselves. I know that when I talk with you and I listen to your podcast too, you do say a lot of deep words. So I invite people to also maybe if they're at a point they could listen to the podcast again, depending on what hits the most. Because I find this when I listen to some of your stuff over, it hits me at greater levels. I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's so deep, and then I get it, and then it's like it sounds so simple sometimes, and sometimes it's so deep that it doesn't necessarily connect in the way that it truly hits afterwards. So I invite people to do that. And as we talk and have a conversation now, I would love, and I'm sure the listeners would love to know too, your book. So it's really relating to never underestimate the power of you. So do you mind sharing either how that came to be, or why you feel like this in the world makes a difference?
Geez, I never I never sat down and said, I'm going to write a book. It just never happened that way. I started journaling and journaling helps me. Writing things down helps me, making lists. Sometimes I'm visual and I need to see things. And like you said, sometimes when I hear something, it doesn't hit me. But if it's maybe shown to me in a picture or through a metaphor or something like that, I can pick up on it and understand it a little bit better. So journaling was big for me, and that's what started the process of the book. I just would journal and start writing stuff down, and I could go back to what I journaled and kind of reassess it where I'm at. And like maybe some of it I didn't understand because it was a month before I wrote it. Or a month after I wrote it, I should say. And I would have to dig in a little bit deeper. And which the process itself brought me to, which I knew from the start was it's all internal. Nothing external really matters. It's what we say to ourselves. It's what we think of ourselves. It's how we control our focus. Like you said, there's a lot of stuff happening in the world. There's a lot of stuff happening around us, but we have that choice to shift our focus onto, maybe something good or maybe something helpful. To me, it's like gratitude. If you start focusing on the things that you don't have, you're going to lose sight of the things that you do have, which it could be a dangerous road again, because you want to take inventory of the things that you have. And at the same time, you don't want to judge, you don't want to compare. These are all hard, but these are all aspects of it. But through the process of writing the book, that's what it really came down to me is never underestimate the power of you. And that's what really drew me to you, Jen, is your message through a true icon. It's all about like the power inside of you. And it's kind of what I believe. It really goes with my message.
And what do you hope for people to get out of a conversation like that in terms of knowing the power within them? What do you think people could really either change their life on or perspective on just by knowing that, knowing the power within them?
Yeah, just to get the ball rolling even would be a huge thing. And it would be more than I could ask for, really. Sure, we all want to be understood. I want to help people truly, but people can only, pick up the message at their level of awareness. So if you need to read something a few times, then it might strike you differently. If you experience a few things in life and go back to what you read a year ago, it might hit you differently. And you might go, oh, I get this now. So something like that is, I think, again, just for people to realize they don't need to do anything extravagant. There's a big push for, having this grand purpose. And your purpose could be just to live in a peaceful way according to how you want to live. That's it, period. End of story. And that's enough. That's more than enough.
It's almost like we find that our purpose, we're looking for this purpose that's so great. It's like big P, capital purpose, like that. It's
Yes.
so unattainable. Yet it could be right here if we open our eyes, if we let go of things and are in a perspective that we realize it doesn't have to be so far out there. We can make a difference right here and right now.
Absolutely. And that's the difference. That's the difference to me that counts the most is start within. You make the difference in yourself and then you live accordingly. And then, like you said, the importance of having these conversations, someone listening could be in a really bad spot and they could just hear that, hey, this person struggled or this person was struggling and now, they have a podcast or something. That alone can, can give somebody that inspiration or maybe even that motivation that is required to take that next step, to give everybody a voice and know that, they're not alone, I guess. Again, that sounds kind of corny, but it's kind of true. There's podcasts like yours out here that can help people just by listening, and you can get tips and tools from other people's experiences.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think it's corny because I mean I'm sure if you look at Google searches and Instagram searches, you find like a lot of people searching for that connection. You're combating loneliness. We're individuals seeking connection in our devices, and then it's making us feel more alone. Yet conversations like this, although it's not in person per se, it is at least showcasing to people like the inner thoughts of like the connection. I'm not saying, okay, do this and buy these things and do all these things. Like it's really for people. It's rooted because it's like this calling to help others. And that's the true intention. The true intention is not the monetary component. It's really to realize we're searching for this connection and we're searching in all of these areas that might have the least connection. So how can we realize that we're not alone? If we're searching for this purpose.
Yeah, I actually, there's a part at the end of my book where I talk about this faux connection of being online and being around people that are more interested in self-serving and like self-promotion than they are like self-development because they're worried about like what you said there. So you can follow that and it might be cool in the moment. It's like you're into fitness, I believe, correct? So you can have that candy bar, you can have that slice of pizza and be like, this is great. And in the moment, you are so happy. But in an hour or two or a day or two, you might go, oh, I'm not feeling that great. I wish I didn't do that. Not saying we shouldn't have those cheat days or whatever, but I'm trying to compare like that in the moment instant gratification. We're so thirsty, we're going to drink poison to quench our thirst, not knowing that that poison's actually going to make us sick. So if we go through the desert, take the necessary steps, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard. We're going to have to stop. We may roll down a hill and we may have to restart climbing again. But that climb is worth it because once we get to that step where we're on the top of the mountain, there may be another mountain, but for right now, that plateau is worth it. And we can look around, celebrate our victory, and look within and say, look what I achieved. Don't look outside and say, well, this person climbed 2 mountains today. I only did 1. Well, that's great for them, but you got to use your own ruler when you're talking about this stuff. I'm not going to take Jen's blueprints for the perfect house and build my house with hers, right? I'm going to use my own blueprints for my house and make it the way I want.
Oh, yeah. And you see that all the time of people trying to be other people. I'm going to try to be like this person or this content creator. And it's okay to look up to people. It's okay to have influencers and different people you look up to, but not to emulate them or copy them, but to find values and components of others and other situations that you also value, that you might learn that you value and you didn't know you did. And those components, but not to say, and copy them or that type of thing. And I think this conversation today, it'll go into that. It'll go into, first of all, the cost of waiting to take that action, and also looking to others, looking for others of, I'm going to find success here in this environment. And this is because they told me that that's going to be successful, or I
Right.
learned that it's over here. I need that validation so much so that I'm willing to sacrifice my own voice to get a taste of that poison, almost taste of that validation that's only going to temporarily keep me afloat. And then I'm still empty. I still feel empty. And then realizing how the power that you do have in you. So we'll unpack those things because in this life, in so many different aspects. I mean, you could talk career, you can talk mental health, you can talk friendships or families dynamics. You have so many components of what success is and what it looks like. But if it really doesn't, if you're only doing it for other people, if you're only doing those things for others and not yourself, and it's exclusively, it's helping them but making you feel more and more empty and more or less and less like yourself, then it's that at that cost.
Absolutely. That's a heavy cost. It's a heavy weight to carry. And I think happiness and success are similar in the way where they're both achieved by the person who defines it. So your success is going to be defined different from my success. So many people are chasing happiness, but if you stop and sit down and say, hey, what does happiness look like for you? They'll be like, oh, I don't know, maybe this or that. But you have to stop and think, and I think for me, the process of writing the book, it was me alone thinking. That's what I did. And it was a lot of looking in within, having insight and saying, what are things that I value? What are things that bring me joy? And if I don't know what those are, how am I going to achieve them, right? So you have to define it.
Yeah, I think our paths, our journey in different scenarios has been very similar because I hit breaking point at different points of my life of, okay, I have the things, I have this job, I have this, I'm working on this, I got the MBA, I got all of these things, and then it's like I'm still trying to not feel so empty because like you said, you're trying to find someone else's version of happiness, and that's okay. Like from a career, sometimes it's tricky because like you need income, right? Like there's some things I'm
Sure.
not going to
Yeah.
love
Yeah. Yeah.
every
Yeah. Yeah.
component, but if everything is geared towards everyone, then who am I? Who is, what does Jen value? What does Tim value? And is it just what these other people value? Because then after a while, it'll unveil itself.
Right. Right. And then in the reality of that process that you just spoke of, you're actually suppressing your authentic self. You're dismissing who you are. You're pushing it aside, which is subconsciously telling yourself that you're not good enough.
Because you
So
might
that
believe it.
story, right? Because that story of I'm not good enough is going to pop up. And then the way our brains work, they work with patterns and connections. So every time they hear that I'm not good enough, boom, whoop, that's fire again, boom, boom. And that gets very strong and we start to believe it like it's a fact. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. You tell yourself that enough, you're going to believe it.
I found myself rejecting myself first, and not letting either friendship. So I could see even from when I was younger in different components, and it trickled upwards of, I'm not going to join this friend group. I'm not going to talk to them because, oh, they're better off than me or they're better than me. And think about how that compounds over time, over a lifetime. Oh, I don't want to take this job. Don't want to do this opportunity because, oh, I'm not good enough. And then it's like proving yourself that story. And I think in that case, it was the cost besides waiting for other people's validation. It was just fueling that. And all that's going to do is make me expend my energy into those components and not even myself. So you're right. It goes less and less from yourself. And it was, for me, it looked like the blame, right? You start feeling resentment. Oh, it's this or that. And those components that it's really not other people's fault. It's myself. It's
Sure.
the boundaries or lack of, or I don't want to. I still want to have grace, and people have grace for themselves because you only know what you know.
Well,
But
that's it. And you
yeah,
just nailed it. I think, you can you can say to yourself, oh, I wish I had boundaries, or I do it. It's not about beating yourself up, because there's the lack of grace. It's just about going through these experiences and be open enough to continue to have more experiences and then take from them. Like you said, that's what you did. You learned eventually what worked best for Jen. You learn what works best for you. What doesn't work, start there. If I have a list and I know what definitely doesn't work for me, start there. That can lead you to the things that may work. But also, a tricky part is being open to whatever falls too. You have to be open enough to allow things to fall in their place without trying to dictate or move them and judge them in how you wish they fell, if that makes sense.
Yes.
It's tough. It's really tough. And, I can sit here on the podcast and say all these things, but it's still I'm in the process. I'm still learning. I'm still doing it. And that's why when earlier you had said, like, current space for my brain is this. It's the self-development. It's a constant daily climb of breathing, noticing, reframing, repeat, because that's what it takes sometimes. And for me, some people have their own way, and I think am open enough to where I can say, find something that works for you. If it doesn't hurt you or others, then do that.
For someone who's stuck in that waiting mode, waiting to take action, what are they feeling? Like, what are some components in that stage that they're in terms of, like, you're waiting for, other people to tell you, or validation, or you're waiting, you don't think you're good enough. Like, for a lot of people listening, what are they feeling in your
It's
opinion?
tough. In my opinion, I think every obviously it's very individualistic. I
Yes.
think the baseline is fear. It's they're feeling a fear of, not being enough, not being able to achieve whatever it is they want to achieve. Some people fear achieving what they want to achieve. So it gets very tricky, but the baseline of all of it, I believe, is an underlying fear. So in those instances, I would just say, jump. Honestly, jump. Because you're stuck and you're going, I can't do this. Just take that step. It's like, for me, when I'm feeling that downward spiral knocking at my door, I don't want to do anything. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to sit on the couch today. I'm going to scroll. I'm going to watch a movie. And sometimes those are helpful things for me. But if I see the pattern of it and I get stuck in it, I need to jump. I need to get outside. I need to take a walk. And as soon as I do that, boom, it clicks you right out.
So it sounds like jump is like taking an action, whether it is
Action. That's it.
Walking or finding themselves. Okay, some type of action towards
Something.
what their goals, or towards something else.
It could be anything, as small as the action could be just getting up off the couch. The action could be opening up the refrigerator and getting yourself a cold glass of water. It's something. It's just taking action. It doesn't matter how high the bar is. What matters most is that you start and you stick with it. You can worry about getting stronger later. You can worry about raising the bar incrementally along the path. But you need to start. You need that action. In my opinion, it's crucial. You need to take that step.
Yeah, because if you're trying to base your actions based on someone else's timeline, and where you think someone else is at, that doesn't also mean that's actually where they at. That's a whole separate thing. Then, it could be heavy to even step out there. But just realizing it's just gonna do it afraid, do it, sad. Just take the moment to something for yourself, and even if it doesn't seem like a lot.
That what you just said is really so important that I want to put some more emphasis on it. Do it afraid. People talk about strength and courage, and those things are not lack of fear. Those things are doing it despite the fear. That's what that is to me, because I think that is huge. It's just do it despite the fear. Do it despite that someone's going to criticize you or point the finger and say, oh, you did. As long, going back to the intrinsic, as long as you stick to your values, stick to your story, it's okay. Say to yourself at the end of the day, was I kind? Was I Did I do my best? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, then whatever happened, happened. I can't change what happened. If something did happen and according to my own ruler, if I didn't enjoy it or if I thought it could be modified a bit, then I'll do that moving forward. But if someone else didn't like it, I'm not going to base my worth on somebody else's opinion of me, right? I mean, if
Yeah.
a lot of people take advice from somebody or they allow their opinions of strangers to infiltrate their life. And then if you sit down and ask that same person, would you go to that stranger for advice? They'd be like, no. Well, then why are you allowing their opinions to infiltrate what you built? You're the captain of your vessel. Just steer it in the direction of your choice. That's it. Just keep going. If you hit an iceberg, if you stop, it doesn't matter. You just have to start the process and keep going. That's what matters most.
Yeah. Because the healing from within, from your own vessel that you lead, it's freeing. I'll say
Oh,
this from my own experience too, and I'll let you dive in on your side, because once I realized how much power I had in my life, all of the other noise, I'll call it, the expectations, the whatever, like if I lived each day, it's gonna sound a little weird, but if I live each day like it's my last, and I like to say my first, like then,
mm,
and I'm doing my best, then for me that's all that matters. Because my last day, right, like if I have the experience I already have and I live it to my values, no matter what I'm doing, even if it's tedious stuff, like I'm doing my best, and I know I'm doing my best. It's not always 100% my best, in terms of I don't have 100% that day.
right.
And
So
then
then
my
it is your
first
best.
day, yeah, exactly. It is my best. But like that's the thing of reasoning it myself. No, like I did the best I could. And then the first day of like how much wonder did we have? Like when really, really young, days felt longer, right? Every month now it's like, oh, I can't believe it's almost June. Can't believe it's almost July. Like you hear it on the news, you hear it everywhere. It's because
Right.
we're not present. It's like when you're younger, and
Bingo.
even in high school, you are absorbing everything, right? You're absorbing, taking it in. Everything's new, right? Imagine if you look at the world with that much wonder as when you did when you were younger, or even in moments that you really remember those details, like that's presence. And to me, if I could pair both together, where I notice the beautiful things in life, it allows me to see the good and it'll reinforce the good. And also doing my best, knowing that sometimes my best isn't my 100% self, but also in that day, it really is, because I'm trying my best and I don't have the answers, but having the grace and not having the answer, like that changed my life. And then that noise faded, and it really takes a while, and it takes a lot of that deep work, but it's so worth it. And it's a journey, but I can't say, once I learned it, I can't unlearn it. Like it's like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
could do
right. Once
anything.
you've tasted that freedom and that, to me, it's that lightness too, because
Mm,
all that weight they've been carrying around for all these years, you can just let it go, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can do this, I can do anything, I can live
yeah.
my life the way I want, and then you're not weighted down, and you're not feeling groggy, and nothing's holding you back. You just do it. It's such a, like you said, it's such a freedom that, and that's kind of again going back to the book. It's me saying like it's almost me saying like I'm not this extraordinary strong person. I'm not special by any means. And I've achieved a lot of this through that work, through the actions. So it's me saying like if I can do it, you can do it, you know? It sometimes that message gets lost, but that's how I feel at least. It comes from a good place. All the things that I say and do come from a solid place.
Because it's
And it
real.
just yeah, it's real, and I understand that it's not gonna be for everybody. If somebody can take one piece of this, if someone can take one line that I said out of this podcast and it sits with them and it makes their day a little brighter, then perfect. That's awesome.
And so is awareness the foundation of all of this, or are there other components that really help get to that deeper level, or lightness, so to
I
speak?
th I think awareness is where it's at. It's the beginning of everything. It's the foundation. Because if we're not aware, we don't know. If I don't know, it's almost like the conundrum of I'm going to say that I have I have a self-love deficit and I have all these things, but where is it coming from? If I have to if I have to look back, if I can trace the steps and then I find its origin, it's going to be that awareness. Because if I'm not living in the present moment, if I'm not here now, I'm thinking about the future or I'm thinking about the past. I'm thinking about what happened to me when I was 16. And granted, it happened, but at this stage of my life, this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
It may not be your fault what happened and it may have sucked, but right now it's my responsibility in how I move forward.
Yeah. And then, yeah, it's like acknowledgement, but it's not controlling.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is. It's acknowledging it and letting it be what it is. And that's part of the hard part is letting it go and just letting things fall as they will. But if you have that foundation of awareness, you can start to build the solid foundation of self-love. Once you build that solid foundation of self-love, you get to the point of you know who you are. You like who you are. When you get to that dangerous level, there's nobody out here that's going to tell you different. It's just not going to happen because I know who I am. You can come in and say, well, you know what? That car over there, it's not red, it's black. I'll go, okay, cool. You want to think it's black? That's great. Awesome. It's red, but I'm not going to sit here and spend my energy on trying to figure out why you think it's that or why you want to think you're right. It just doesn't matter. It's about not playing the game. I don't play those games. It
No.
just don't. I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not gonna volunteer to stand in line for that game. It's just not
To me,
who
it's
I
not worth
am.
the energy. Like, once I
Right.
realized that, oh, what am I trying to prove? Like, to prove I'm right for someone who I don't necessarily want to walk the same path anyway. I mean, they have their path, I have mine. Like, what am I trying to prove it to? Like you said earlier, like, are you trying to really take advice from someone that you might not want to be in their shoes and how they're living life? Or the same thing with social media. Everyone has an opinion, you know.
Sure, sure,
If
yeah.
they're trying to tear you down, then so be it, but, like, yeah, that's hard too. I mean, I'm learning that on social media because 'cause
It
I'm
is
like, "My
hard, but, like,
intentions are good."
they are good, and let's say, you know what, and so are mine, and like I said, you just have to, at the end of the day, go, "I know I'm not for everybody. I know
Yeah.
I may rub people the wrong way." I've accepted the title of instigator. That's
Yeah.
what, we call myself on the podcast is because sometimes I nudge people into healing. Encourage them, but it might be a little harsh because depending on where they are in their journey, but at the same time, it comes from a place of love. I can't as long as I know that it came from a good place, I know that I did my best, then I can't really control how others perceive my words or myself.
Right,
If
and
it
they might
if
not
it's
be ready.
They may not be ready, and that's totally fine. I'm not saying yeah, that's totally fine. If they want more help, they want advice, if they wanna just me to listen or somebody listen, great, that's awesome too. I'm not saying that any level is better than the other, I'm just saying you have to stay aware. That's where that awareness component comes in. It's just basically a scale of awareness, you know? Your awareness may be higher than mine, and I may not understand what you're saying, but that doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means that I don't really have that awareness. I'm not up to your level of awareness. So I can't really comprehend what you're getting at, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and can you help me understand the awareness itself? Like, was it journaling that allowed for more awareness, or was it more life experience? Like, how do you get more awareness?
I think it's both. I think it's like all this. It's a practice. It's legit. Like you have to get up and say, I'm doing this. When I lock the garage door, I'm there, as you said, it's staying in the present moment. It's locking the garage door. Because if my mind is elsewhere, then I get in the car and a mile down the road, I'm like, did I lock the garage door? Oh my gosh, I don't know. So it's different for everybody, but for me, it's a matter of triaging and maybe even minimizing. So if I have 10 things I need to do or 10 things in front of me, I take the 3 most important things that need to get done. They may not be the same as want to get done, but they're the things that need to get done. And then out of those three, I say, okay, well, which is the most important thing that needs to get done? And then I put that first and then second and third. And now if I can accomplish those, I can go on to the other stuff, but those need to be the focus. I need to go, this is what I need to do. I need to stay on this task because if I don't, number one, it may not get done. If I'm not staying aware, it's also not training my brain. If I'm staying aware, it's the same as gratitude. The more you practice gratitude, the quicker it is to reach in your pocket and grab gratitude. It's the same thing with awareness. The more you practice awareness, the easier it is to put into play, put into practice.
Yeah, I think that's tangible right there. I mean, like gratitude, the more you know of gratitude, you know of the practice of gratitude. Same with
Right.
awareness. Now we know awareness. Everyone listening to this point knows awareness. Okay.
Yeah, you said it yourself just a little while ago with your journey. Like once you got to that level of like shutting out that extrinsic chatter, and now like I know what I'm going to do, it's freeing. And it's the same thing. It's just you have to stay aware. It's a step by step, breath by breath moments. And unfortunately that's how some of this is done, is through micro moments. Is like healing's a big picture, but through millions of micro moments I can achieve that next step or get to that next level. It's all within those micro moments, and it's stopping yourself and saying, oh, geez, you know what? I'm feeling a little bit angry right now. Let me think back. Okay, you know what? I didn't get any sleep last night. I didn't eat any breakfast before I left the house. And maybe the incident that got me upset reminds me of something that happened 10 years ago.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That's mindfulness.
Very tangible.
Then you can take that step by step, retrace it, and go, this is why, this is what happened. So basically what happens is if we get into an experience, once we become more mindful of that experience, we start to realize it's not necessarily the experience that is hurting us. It's our thoughts, judgments that we place onto that experience. If I go outside and I get into an accident and I'm like, okay, so there's the baseline. I get into an accident. Boom, I got a dent in my door. Now I go home and I carry that incident with me and I'm so dumb. I don't know why I did that, what happened, and I just ruminate. So now something that happened 48 hours ago, I'm still thinking about. So what the real suffering comes from our thoughts and what we place upon what actually happened. That's why mindfulness is so important.
Our emotions and thoughts tied to that story, tied to whatever.
Bingo.
It is.
Bingo. It's that story. That's what it comes back to for me. And that's, again, never underestimate the power of you. The thing is yes, people go through tragic things in their life. We have horrible things happen, and some of that dictates the story that we tell ourselves. Okay. But the thing is, we can rewrite that story. We can write new chapters in our life. And it just, again, the micro moments, it's staying present, being aware, step by step, breath by breath, we rewrite, we reframe. Every little situation in our life, we do that. And it just builds upon, it compounds, basically. So it becomes a little bit less intrusive to do. In the beginning, it's super hard. You literally have to go every 2 seconds and remind yourself, like, this is it. Keep your head above your feet. Put your hand on your chest. This is where I am right now.
Yeah, present.
Yeah, present awareness. I mean, those are big factors. And like you said, the story we tell ourselves is such a huge, huge variable, I believe, to that can change things. Like it can change things for the better, but it can change things for the worse. And that's the thing, you come into situations again where you've had bad situations happen to you. You've been handed you've been dealt a shitty deck of cards. Okay. Doesn't mean that that the game is over. It just means you have to play the cards that you have in your hand and you do the best you can. That's it. But through that process, like you said, with yours, through that process of learning and getting to that next step or stage, that wisdom comes with you. It doesn't go away. Maybe in extreme high stress moments or, when you're going through high stress in your life, those old patterns will reappear because they're the ones that are ingrained the deepest. So they're going to be forefront. But through mindfulness, I can say, wait a minute. That's not who I am anymore. I don't live in that house. That's a thought that I'm having. Okay. And I need to try and go, okay, take that thought. Like, this is what I do is I take that thought and I picture that I'm driving in a car and I'm passing a sign. As I'm driving in the car, I see that thought. I say, how you doing, thought? I read you. I know what you are. And then I wave to it. See you later, thought. And you just drive by and the thought goes. Super hard to do, but that's how it's done. It's in those repetitive moments, micro moments, continuous.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. I mean, that's the way I see it. And I feel very strongly about it. I'll die on that hill if I have to, but it's that story we tell ourselves, and we have that power to change our focus. If I'm eating unhelpful foods, if I'm watching the news and, basically if we feed our minds, our body garbage, that's what we're going to produce. Some people want to plant a flower in a garden and they just put it in there and they let it go. You have to cultivate it. You have to water it. You may have to change the soil. You may have to move that pot and put it in another location on your yard because the sun hits it better. You can't just, it's a matter of, again, staying mindful, seeing what works, trying things out. Hey, that didn't work for me. And that's okay. That didn't work. It wasn't a failure by any means. It was a stepping stone to the things that you want to do, because you place it and you go, oh yeah, that didn't work this time. So now, okay, cool. I'm going to use that to get closer to where I want to be.
I love your gardening analogy too, because I was helping with an assembly a couple weeks ago, and the theme was resilience. And I think just naturally the day before I had an epiphany. I'm like, I'm a visual person too. Like, what's visual for people to understand? So I had like a little Canva or like moving picture of a plant, of a tree growing, and it's resilience, right? Because first of all, you're planted underground as a seed, and you have to grow into this big world that's full of adversity, full of storms, full of droughts, full of sunny days and rainy days. And at that point, no, not like, who's gonna be threatened by this little seed that's not even planted? But then as you grow, you're growing despite the challenges, but because of the challenges, right? Like, it's really cold out, or you get a lot of hailstorms, and then you're getting those things, and your trunk, it starts getting thicker, right? Your leaves start getting thicker, and you're going towards the light, but you're finding the light. You're not letting it stop you. And then as you grow, like, that's resilience, because the trees that are the tallest of the trees, they're the strongest because they've endured the strongest storms, the challenges.
Perfect.
I mean, some even lightning. My tree growing up had like 2 lightning strikes, and it was still going. And it was despite the challenges. I'm like, in life, we have that too, where we have those challenges. And I think sometimes a pattern is to ruminate on the challenges, or go into that story of, I'm not good enough, or this always happens to me, or all those negative thoughts. But a tree, like, it's not like a tree does that. Like, you always do this. You always get caught in this rain. Like, it just grows. It just goes. It can't even be even more present. And then the same thing with basil. I've been getting a lot into more gardening. You trim the edges off of like basil, and then you trim it like below, and then like 2 little stems pop up. So you get a lot of growth and full basil plant. I love pesto, so I'm like, basil. Because of the trimming. So like letting go of all of the like yellow parts, or all the parts that no longer resonate with that basil plant allows it to bloom. And I'm like,
perfect.
Boom, that's life.
That's it.
Tangible.
Perfect analogy. That is the tree and the basil are both perfect. Strong roots don't worry about strong winds because they know they're going to survive, and they have resilience. And then the basil is a perfect example of, in order to grow, we have to let go and we have to change. We have to change. Yeah. In order to become the person that you want to be, you have to let go of the person that you thought you were. It's just impossible to do otherwise. That basil needs to grow, and in order to grow, you have to trim it. And sometimes maybe the pot you have that basil in isn't big enough. So as it grows, it takes up more space, and that's great. Let it take up more space, because the more space it takes up, the more it thrives. The more able to be itself. That's what basil does. We don't look at it and say, why is this basil growing so good? And it's taking up all this space. I'm going to tear it out and throw it in the garbage. No, we go, take up more space, basil. We like pesto around here,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, that's what we do. So it's the same. That's how I see it in life, is the same way. We all need to take up a little more space in a respectable way, but understand that everybody has that basil's not going to grow just like my basil. But that's the beauty of it. My basil's different from your basil. And maybe I can go over to that and say, Jen, how did you grow your basil so good? And you're like, well, I did it through practice. I failed a lot and I made so many mistakes, but I kept going and I didn't give up. And that's how I learned from them. And that's how I got this basil.
Yeah, the goal isn't to stay small. And even in those cases, the small of the seed, the goal of the seed is not to stay small. It is to
Right.
grow. And with
Right.
us, like, you can't, if you say you want growth, you need to go through the challenges and the lessons of life to grow. You cannot grow without the challenges and adversity and windstorms, whatever storms in your life to get to that point, as long as you learn from it. I think that's the thing. If we that awareness, right? Awareness enough. This is a shitty time. There's a lot of stuff happening, in life. There's stormy moments, right? There's stormy challenges. But if we go past that, it will get better. It will get better through time. And if we're kind to ourselves and kind to others in the process, where it's like, okay, it's going to get better. I'm acknowledging it sucks. It's right now, it's tough. I'm not going to say it's easy, but down the road, things will get better in one way, shape, or form. And then the mindset changes because of it, because it's not things always happen to me. Like, it's because, okay, I learned a lot from this, so I can help other people who might be going through their challenges, but you use it as some type of benefit. And I think that's the challenge. And I think that's the challenge to others listening too, of, even lessons from the past. I find that my greatest lessons are my greatest challenges. I mean, once I was able to realize that, it was, okay, I'm not seeking challenges. I mean, I do things afraid, but I know that something will come out of it, and it at least allows me to give something good despite it.
The outcome usually outweighs what you're feeling. The outcome of feeling, hey, you know what? I did this podcast. I've been getting guests and I've had these great conversations. That totally outweighs the fear, whatever that is in the beginning. And that's something that I go back to a lot, is when I get stuck, is which pain am I willing to deal with? It's almost like triaging. It's the same thing as which pain am I willing to deal with? This is a tough situation. Like you said, I have to acknowledge it, because if you don't acknowledge it, you're stuffing it. And then stuffing it is going to end up in a volcano and it can erupt. And you have to acknowledge what you're feeling. But sometimes what you're feeling is based off of something that is not factual. So by connecting the dots, staying aware, we can figure that out through that process.
And why do you think it's so hard for people to talk about this in general? I mean, is it vulnerability? Is it something else? I mean, we're talking about it to acknowledge that, yes, people face these challenges.
Yes, for sure. Again, this is all individualistic, but my opinion is vulnerability is for me, it's incredibly hard. And we've been taught that being vulnerable isn't a strength, which is complete hogwash. Being vulnerable is probably the biggest strength that a person can possess, in my opinion. But being vulnerable, because in yoga, they have the warrior pose, I believe, and you're open. Your chest is out and you're open. When you're open, what does that say? You're open for hurt. You're open for things to happen to you. Does that make sense? But if you look at it as, I'm open, I'm going to, like the tree with strong roots, it's outside, it's open, it has the chance of getting struck by lightning. But by being open, you're also allowing chances for sunshine, for flowers to grow around you, for kids to come and look at you and gaze in awe because you're such a strong tree.
Flourish.
Yeah, it's something that I dealt with in the beginning, is because, again, I talk about this early on in my book, is I'm very logical sometimes, and I thought that if I shut down, do the opposite of that warrior pose, If I stay small and cover up, don't let anybody or anything in, well, then I'm fine. I'll never be harmed, right? Because I won't allow anything to come in. But by doing that, you never allow anything to happen. So you never allow the good to come in. And sometimes when you trap everything out, you realize you trapped those negative thoughts inside with you. So now it's just you and the negative thoughts. So it's just, we're convoluted as humans, but then the process of all this adds to that. And it's just really, really, really hard. There's a lot of moving pieces. Everything's interconnected, but I'm going to go back to the analogy of the tree, like you said. It's part of the process. It's going through this. And instead of saying, why is this happening to me? Say, what is this trying to teach me? It's that shift. Again, it's those micro moments. It's super hard, especially when you're in those moments. But if you can stop that pause and breathe and say, what is this trying to teach me? What am I supposed to take from this? Or what can I take from this? Because you may have gone through some things, but you don't realize it. But the reason you did is because you can grow from them and then help others grow from them.
Yeah. And that's like a big why of TrueIcon. And then for something very recent that maybe a lot of people might experience, their significant others, spouses, partners, whoever, their friends. Like I realize in some cases, say my husband, I was working with stuff with him and we had to do a whole, won't get into the details. We had to do a whole bathroom surprise remodel where we found some
Surprise. I love that.
molds. We were just going to tile the top part. And
Right.
no. We had to take the whole floor apart, and we had a leak in the faucet a couple of days ago. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, we just did this. Like, I couldn't take it. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, I'm sorry that I took that out on you. I'm like, it's not your fault. Like, it's really not. But I said I was frustrated. But like, I find myself acknowledging that more, of that awareness of, I'm aware that this isn't how I necessarily want to live. Those thoughts, right, and emotions were kind of dictating the story. I'll bring it back. And I was realizing after the fact, okay, I'm a lot more direct about acknowledging that to someone. Oh, I'm sorry I was this. I'm sorry I acted this way. I'm sorry I took that out on you. Like, I'm actually saying it to them as if like it's,
and that's vulnerable. That's being vulnerable, right?
Yeah. But it's
tough
allowed
to do.
so many good things from that. It allowed the honesty. It's like, because otherwise you have the spiral of, you did this or you did this, and it like stacks on top of each other. And now like you have like people, friends, or even parent scenarios where people like, it's just blocked because of the blame and resentment. It's like, wait a minute, like I was loud and I shouldn't have done that. And
so that's when
okay.
you go back to those, which pain am I willing to deal with? Am I willing to deal with the pain of hurting my friend, or yelling at my spouse, or getting upset at a parent, saying something that I didn't mean? Or am I willing to deal with the uncomfortableness of being vulnerable and saying, hey, you know what? I apologize for that. I realized that it was a little out of control, out of hand. It wasn't warranted, and I apologize. Because they're both uncomfortable. They're both like, there's fear, there's pain behind both of them, but you have to decide which one you're willing to deal with.
Yeah. And then you get better practice at getting to the
Absolutely.
deeper level. And then that just, it changed a lot of my relationships. It changed my friends. I mean, even work. It allowed, as soon as if you make a mistake, yep, that was me. I fixed it. We did this. But it like, I could be a lot more direct, and it solves so many challenges that didn't need to be challenges,
No, and I agree. I could be wrong with this, but I think people watch that. Like, if you did that, the people you work with or the people around you watch that and say, wow, look how that worked. And they notice it and say, maybe I can, and try those little micro changes and shift something and be more like that in those situations. That's change right there.
Yeah.
Because you start with yourself. You said, this doesn't work for me. I'm not going to do it. And then I'm going to do this instead. There's a change. Somebody saw it. They go, wow, look at that. I get what she's doing, and I think it's valiant of her. I think it takes strength and vulnerability. Good for her. I'm going to work towards that myself. Boom. Look at what you just did.
That's it.
You didn't realize it.
Yeah. And I've seen it. I've seen the after effects of that because people directly told me, which I would have never, ever seen. And whoever's listening now, you have that power within you right now. You can change people and change the stories that people have in their minds just by owning your own power.
But I think that's the only way to do it, because I don't necessarily think you can change somebody's opinions through your own. I don't think you can sit with somebody and change. I think it's through the actions.
Mm.
It's becoming that person that you want to be, sticking to your values and living it, living that way. That's the change, because then they can see it. And if they don't see it, they may see it again. Like you said before, they might see it a year from now and think back and go, man, I understand now what Jen was doing, and I wish I had her strength, and I wish I could do that. But then they go, I can do that. I'm going to work towards that.
Yeah, but despite them actually saying that, this you're doing it, it's great if they understand, but if they don't, that's okay too.
Absolutely. And going back to like the bathroom thing, is there's going to be bad things are just going to happen, and sometimes there is not a reason for it. They're just going to happen. I think it's accepting. That's when accepting comes into play. It's that radical acceptance piece of saying, this sucks. This happened. I don't like it, but this is what I have to do.
And okay, so as we get towards the end of the podcast here, and especially through all the things, like, yeah, some things just are bad and that's it, period.
Right.
Some things might not
Yep.
necessarily have a strong lesson, they just are. So with that in mind, how is your definition of success? Like, has it changed and evolved through all of this between younger Tim or mid Tim or
Oh
whoever?
yeah, for sure. I don't, I honestly, I've grown so much as a person that I honestly can't even say what younger Tim what he would have said. I really don't. I think through the years I've grown enough to where it's, it's, it's not something grand. It's just like success to me is waking up and not having that impending doom feeling of, I need to figure everything out right now. That's success for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. It brings me peace. And if it bothers other people and they don't accept it, that's on them. That's another hard lesson, is meeting people where they are, accepting where they are, and then placing them appropriately in your life.
And what do you want your impact to be towards others?
I that's a I would say to believe in themselves. I would just say that to wake up and strive to be better, and however their definition is for themselves, and just know that they can achieve things and believe in themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and you've taken the actions, right? The podcast sharing, the book, like allowing other people to see the behind the scenes as well as the actions in the present, and then that does that. You're living those values, and it allows other people to realize, going back to the beginning, of they're not alone, and that's okay to not necessarily be where you want to be, but be on the journey to it and
Right.
constantly learn and grow, and maybe it is uncovering that success that we thought isn't necessarily what it is. Especially you've evolved so much, and
Yeah.
that's awesome, because that's the point, to keep evolving. And
It is. You're
yeah.
absolutely right. And I want to say, like, something that you just said is I'm okay with where I'm at. I may not be where I want to be, but I accept that. And I also accept that I'm not going backwards.
Yeah, because you can't unsee it. What's something that a listener can take with them to, either stay true to themselves, or something based on your story that you think is meaningful for people to hear?
It's less about what they think and more about what you think.
Well, Tim, it's been so great chatting with you, and you have so much wisdom and so many analogies to share. I could tell the visual process too, because I relate with that, and you paint the picture in both the words and also your word choices that showcase a story, showcase the analogy in many different ways. I'm not sure if you realize that. So like
Thank you.
it's layers of it. Like it could be high level and also could be very deep depending on how you hear it. So I appreciate that.
I appreciate you. I appreciate the opportunity to come on to this amazing podcast and share and talk and have a conversation.
Yes, likewise. And we'll put all of his information in the show notes here. And if you like this conversation and others, feel free to like, share, subscribe so that more people can realize that they or you do not have to wait for someone to change your life, right?
Perfect.